I need to tell you something, and I actually need you to hear it. If you're a software engineer, the career you thought you already had is over. Not in 5 years, not eventually, not when AGI shows up. And that's because it ended quietly, recently, and people somehow missed it all. And before you click off of this video, stay with me for one moment, because this is more than just one AI fear video or one AI clickbait video. Because this isn't me trying to make you panic. This is me about to show you guys the truth. And the truth is uncomfortable before it's useful. This is the story of how software engineering died. Not with a bang, but with a productivity update. And more importantly, this is the story of what's replacing it. Because something has replaced it. And for us to do this, we need to look back 5 years ago. Software engineering was one of the safest bets on earth. You learned to code, you landed a high-paying job, and the world basically said, "You're set, congratulations." Software engineering was nearly untouchable to any other industry. It was recession-proof, it was future-proof, and more importantly, it was building the digital world that everybody was beginning to use a lot more. And then something happened. And it didn't happen all at once, not loudly, but it was fast enough to the point where when people already noticed, it was already too late. In 2022, GitHub Copilot launched to the world. At first, it seemed harmless, cute even, people would say. It was like getting everything automatically completed at once, but much smarter. It was a little bit easier for coders to use, a little bit easier to write down code, a little bit faster to get work done. Most developers at the time just shrugged it off. This won't replace us, they said. It doesn't understand context, they said. It writes messy code, they said. All of this was definitely true, but for about 5 minutes. Then ChatGPT launched, and that's when all the rules of the game changed. Now you weren't just compiling code, now you were describing intent. You could write down the most vague test into a chatbot, and you would get a working function, a full API route, database schematics, tests and documentations, all done in one application. And this was groundbreaking because it wasn't just suggestions, it was actual solutions. And the scariest part is, it doesn't feel like magic, it feels obvious. It's like how programming should have been. In months, AI stopped being a tool that you were playing with to a tool you couldn't afford not having. And this is when developers slowly started noticing something. Tasks that used to take a day now took an hour. Features that used to take weeks to design, now done before launch day. And nobody announced this. No bell was rung saying that this was going to change the world. But behind closed doors, executives were doing math. Simple math. If one engineer with AI can do the work of 3 engineers, why do we need 3? And that's when the mass layoffs started happening. And none of this was dramatic, none of it was hostile. This was all shaped as business restructuring, efficiency gains, and realignment. Thousands of engineers went to tens of thousands of engineers. Hundreds of thousands of engineers ended up becoming tens of thousands of engineers. And this is when the economy started to comfort itself. It's this horrible economy. It's post-COVID correction. It's just big tech. But here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. This wasn't a recession layoff. This was a productivity layoff. And productivity doesn't bounce back. Software engineering didn't die because AI became conscious. It died because AI started becoming useful. And once that started happening, there was no going back. The invisible collapse. Here's the thing that most people still don't understand. Software engineering didn't collapse all at once. It started to hollow out from the inside out. The job title still stayed the same. The paychecks still stayed the same. But the work started to change dramatically. And that is what made it dangerous. Before AI was there, being a software engineer meant something very specific. You had to be a syntax master. You needed to have framework knowledge, debugging skills, pattern recognition, and the ability to change vague requirements into logic. That was the value of software engineering. And AI didn't attack the mode from the front. it drowned it. And that's because AI doesn't get tired, it doesn't forget syntax, it doesn't need Stack Overflow, and it doesn't panic under deadlines. And most importantly, it doesn't need junior engineers to learn slowly. That's where the collapse really happened. You see, junior engineers were always the future of software engineering. But the problem was they were always messy, slow, and inexperienced. But regardless of those cons, you still invested in them because one day they'd become seniors and AI broke that pipeline. Why hire someone that'll take months to become useful rather than just giving AI to one senior and they can do the work of multiple engineers? And this is when entry-level engineering jobs started to evaporate. Not officially, but quietly. Fewer postings, more than 3 to 5 years required experience. This is when there were more competition for fewer seats. And suddenly, that ladder disappeared. And then something even stranger happened. Senior engineers started feeling it too. Not layoffs as yet, but something way worse. Diminishing relevance. You'd open your IDE, ask the AI for a solution, and it would give you something good. Not perfect, but good enough to get the job done. Good enough that your job started to shift. You weren't building anymore. You were supervising, correcting, approving it. The creative struggle, the thing that made software engineering feel important, was starting to evaporate. And that's when the identity crisis started to hit. Because here's the uncomfortable question nobody wanted to ask at the time. If AI writes all of the code, what exactly is my value? Companies didn't fire software engineers because they hated them. They fired engineers because the bottleneck started to move. You see, the bottleneck back then used to be implementation. And it's gone from implementation to decision-making now. And decision-making naturally requires fewer people. This wasn't automation replacing factory workers. It was automation taking away thinking labor. And that absolutely scared everyone. Because if this could happen to software engineering, who is safe? The reckoning. This is the part of the story where people usually ask, so, is software engineering doomed? And the honest answer is, some of it already is. And this isn't because they weren't smart. Not because they were lazy, but because they misunderstood what was happening at the time. Most engineers reacted in one of 3 ways. Some had denial. They'd say things like, this is just another hypercycle. Everything will go back to normal soon. Some were defensive. They would say things like, AI can't replace real engineers. And some of them just avoided it completely, thinking to themselves, I'll deal with it some other time. And all of these 3 ways were fatal. And this is because AI wasn't asking for permission. It was improving every week. And here's the brutal truth. AI doesn't need to be perfect to replace you. It just needs to be good enough, instant, and most importantly, cheaper than you. And it already is. We've started to reach a point where startups are starting to launch products with a 2-man startup team. Not because they were geniuses, but it's because AI was doing all of the heavy lifting. One person described the vision. AI built the scaffolding. Another person refined it and shipped it. And that's it. And the question suddenly shifted from, how can I code better? To, why do we need so many coders? And that question simply doesn't have a comforting answer. But here's where the story starts getting interesting. Because this isn't the end of software engineering. It's the changing point. It's the inflection moment. It's the moment either where the profession completely dies or transforms into something more powerful than what it previously was. And now let's go back to the people that actually made it. The engineers that survived didn't fight against AI. They merged. They stopped thinking like programmers and started thinking like builders. The rebirth of the engineer. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. AI didn't kill software engineering. It killed coding as a profession. And those 2 things are not the same thing. The new engineer doesn't complete coding tasks on syntax anymore. That's a losing battle. They do something entirely different now. They define problems clearly, design systems intelligently, understand users deeply, make trade-offs consciously, and they ship faster than ever before. And they can do that without writing a single line of code. Crazy. And this shows us that the role didn't disappear, but it evolved in a way. From code writers to system thinkers to AI augmented builders. And, unfortunately for software engineers, this shift is permanent. The engineers that thrive now aren't the best coders by a mile. They're the best communicators, the best architects, the best decision makers. And that's because AI amplifies clarity and punishes confusion. And this is where the story starts turning hopeful, because for the first time in history, one person with AI can build a product that used to take an entire company to do by themselves. The future no one is ready for. You see, now we're entering a world where software is no longer scarce. Ideas are, judgment is, and honestly, taste is. The future engineer looks less like a coder and more like a conductor, directing artificial intelligence, shaping systems, and without coding, making choices that actually matter. And here's the final truth you need to hear. AI didn't take your job. It exposed what your job really was. If your value was typing, it's gone. And if your job was thinking, you've never been more valuable than this time right now. This isn't the end of software engineering, as we all thought. It's the end of pretending like it wasn't the end of coding. Software engineering isn't dead, but what comes next is going to be much bigger than what we could expect. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, go into my channel. There's a video, a story about a woman who lost her job to AI and how she changed her life. That story just might inspire you to take action in the new AI age. Be merry and God bless. If you found this video enjoyable, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video if you thought it was good.